Hey guys, so it's October 1st, and I figured Snake and I here would talk about our September watches. My camera focus keeps shifting between him and I, but yeah, let's talk about some stuff we watched this month. So, as always, thank you for coming back and hanging out. It's October 1st, so I'm going to, since it's the morning, I'm going to cheer to this Celsius. No Down East cider. It's early in the morning when my cat becomes the focus point. This is Snake, by the way. He's named after Snake Plissken from Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Let's see if I can... There we go. So today, the whole point of this video is to just talk about the stuff that I've watched in September. Keeps shifting that focus point. The whole point of this video is just to talk about everything in September. Okay, so back to it anyway. As you can see, he's very comfortable now. So yeah, basically this watch list series that I do is just... It's an excuse for me to talk about the movies that I've watched. I'm not covering everything that I watched in September, only new stuff. I watched the entire Halloween franchise this month. It's funny, it's September, when things start getting cooler, I tend to kind of like lean back on like just some comfort movies. So I did that a lot this month, but I still have 7 titles that I watched from the collection that were first time watches for me, and then 2 movies in the theaters that we saw as well. So real quick, we saw Beetlejuice, which we loved that movie, and we saw The Substance, which is my favorite movie of the year so far. So what was your favorite movie of the year, Snake? Okay, all right, so we'll just, this one's just going. So first up, one of my earlier watches this month, I watched Moon of the Wolf. It keeps putting focus on my cat. It's off the rails. I watched Moon of the Wolf. Check out this packaging, by the way. If you've never seen this, this is from Vinegar Syndrome. Check that out. Here's the back here. It's focused on him. Yeah, this was a made-for-TV movie. I think from 72. It only runs 75 minutes long. I had never even heard of this before. This was an Erica pick because she had some nostalgia from when she was younger of her brothers watching this. So when Vinegar Syndrome put this out a couple of years ago, she grabbed it really, really quick. We ended up getting number... What's this? 2766 of 5,000 with this release. And honestly, like... There's a feel, right? There's an atmosphere to this movie. It's very rural, very small town. We meet a whole bunch of characters, a whole bunch of people in this small town as this mystery of what is potentially a werewolf takes over this town. And it's a very innocent, unassuming movie that just kind of feels... Are you done with me now? Oh, yeah? You want to get down? Okay. I guess he's done with the video. Yeah, it's just very unassuming. Very, it's extremely 70s, and I just kind of get this atmosphere from it that I really liked. It was definitely silly. I had to kind of put aside my my overly critical hat and just kind of have fun with this one, but I gotta let my cat out. But yeah, wherever I left off, it was just very unassuming and fun. It's got this quality to it that I feel like we don't get anymore, and I know people say that a lot about a lot of movies, like they don't make movies like that anymore. I don't think they genuinely make movies quite like this anymore. I didn't love it. It's not like a favorite of mine, but for a 1972 made-for-TV werewolf movie, it delivered on the things that I was looking for most, right? So, first up was Moon of the Wolf for new watches. Oh, boy. So, I've been slowly making my way through this Wishmaster quadrilogy, And I've never seen Wishmaster before, like 2 years ago. That was my first time. It was one early morning. I decided to throw it on, and I had a ton of fun with it. I was not prepared for how fucking wicked the practical effects and the gore were in the first Wishmaster, and I had a lot of fun with it. Wishmaster 2, I still had fun with. I don't think it's nearly as good as that first one, but it was definitely a serviceable sequel. Some pretty nasty stuff in there, but you could tell there was this kind of dip in quality, and that's okay. Wishmaster 3 is subtitled Beyond the Gates of Hell. So I went into this really kind of expecting... weird. So it's the third movie in this trilogy. You have Artisan Films attached. I didn't really know what to expect. I was kind of like hoping that this franchise would take a bigger step and just really dive into the mythology more. But Beyond the Gates of Hell, so we have a new actor in the role, right? We have was it John Novak, right? Is it John Novak who plays it in this in Wishmaster 3? And I think he also plays it in Wishmaster 4 as well, because they're both made by the same director, Chris Angel. Not the magician guy. Different Chris Angel. They do this thing. So there's this very sci-fi vibe to it. But they do this thing where most of the time we see him, he's in the djinn form, which is something that we didn't see as much in Wishmaster 1. A little bit more in Wishmaster 2. But in Wishmaster 3, they sort of keep him in that djinn form for the most part. There's a sword fight of him in the djinn form. There's a lot of like weird stuff in this one. And I think that's because the actor just could not pull off the human... that human thing. Like, to me, in these first movies, right, his name was Andrew Divoff. He, as just a person, his voice, his cadence, his look, his performance, really sells the character when it's in a human form, right? And then when it's in the djinn form, it's also freaky, but in the human form, he really, really sells it. You don't need to constantly like cover him up as the djinn or put him in that djinn form to make him scary. In Wishmaster 3, I feel like that's really the only way to make him scary. And he's not even scary. He's in full drenched light the entire time. There is still some cool gore here, though. I kind of find myself like uncaring of whatever plot, because it's the same thing. The diamond gets found, the djinn gets released, the djinn needs the person who released him to make 3 wishes, and that will bring on Armageddon. So same thing here, but to kind of bring like this attachment with our character to the djinn, all this other stuff that I didn't really end up find myself like becoming attached to enough. So, but there are still some wicked cool visual effects though. There's a scene where the djinn sucks the life out of somebody or forces them to age essentially very rapidly to the point where they die, and that's really gross. But I had high hopes for Wishmaster 4 because I was like, you can't really like this seems like the low point in this franchise. But with Chris Angel directing again, I don't know. You know, I try not to say movies are bad. I try not to do that. So I'm not going to say that Wishmaster 3 is bad. It's just nowhere near as good as Wishmaster 1 and 2. So, yeah, that was an interesting watch. I'm sure this month I'll end up watching Wishmaster 4. Let me grab a sip of this. How'd you guys enjoy Snake being here? He's too much. So, next up, for first time watch, we have a Severin title, and this is An Angel for Satan. This is the slipped version. Let's check out this slip because we're October 1st and we need those gothic feels. I dropped it, but we'll pick it right back up and we'll go for this here. And there's a lot of titles. I recently bought, I would say about a month and a half ago, I bought a Severin haul. So I purchased this. He was selling, I want to say like 11 titles that I bought off of him. Eventually, one day, I want to have a complete Severin collection. I just absolutely love the effort they put in. I love discovering the movies that they put out. So I bought this haul, and it was like 11 titles for, I paid like $60 for, and this was one of them. An Angel for Satan, this is really cool. So this is coming to us from 1966. This is directed by Camilo, I can't say the last name, Mastrochink, I think is how you say it. And stars Barbara Steele. And this is a story. There's a really cool plot here, right? It tells the story of a wealthy family's statue that's been recovered from the water. So the statue, once existed, it was fallen into the water, and it was dug. It was taken out of the water, and obviously it's damaged now at this point. And a sculptor has been called to the residence to rebuild and to repair this sculpture. But behind the sculpture, there is this story, sort of like the witches from like Wizard of Oz. There was a very ugly sister who resented the beautiful sister who the statue was molded after because of her beauty. And what follows is this: you have kind of this woman getting revenge, returning into a beautiful form and getting revenge, and kind of riling up the town and the people involved. And I was really, really, really on board for the first half of this, because this 4K restoration looks incredible. This is just a Blu-ray. The 4K looks incredible. It's in black and white, but the first half of this movie is drenched in thunder and lightning, and the production design, the location they chose is beautiful, and there's this really, really, really good atmosphere built around this statue and the mystery of what's happening here. And as that begins to unravel, I was like really, really sucked into what was going on, and I was like, what direction is this going to take? Where the mystery had me really intrigued. And then something happens, I would say, in like the final third, where the town kind of starts to fight back this evil, and that's when it really kind of lost me. It just kind of got too unfocused on what I thought could have been a very, 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 very like personal, tragic story told about this family. And I think if there is any movie in my collection that I would hearken people to discover, to possibly remake and retell, it would be An Angel for Satan, because if you were to remake this and keep it in this times, keep it in this setting, keep it in this location, I think that there is great horror to be found there, great terror, really good gothic. It would be a really good modern day gothic take, I think. So An Angel for Satan, I liked it. I didn't love it, especially love the first half. But if you're really looking for that thunder, lightning, Victorian gothic feel, I think this is a great entry in your collection. So An Angel for Satan. And I think there was two. It was a short film on here, which was pretty good. I do want to watch the audio commentary on here. So there's a commentary on here with a film historian as well as Barbara Steele. And then there's another one by Kat Ellinger, who's the author of the Daughters of Darkness book. So beautiful slipcover, though. I definitely want to revisit that with some commentaries in the future. So next up, I watched Malevolence, finally. So I bought these off of Stephen Mena, the director's website, a couple of years ago, because he was selling the trilogy, and all three were signed, and they have this matching slipcover spine where it creates a photo, which is pretty cool. And this was one that I bought with no previous knowledge of. Like, I never even watched a trailer for this movie. And there was a couple really cool things that I learned about this. One, it took 2.5 years to complete this movie, where they would shoot something and then years later return back to that spot to finish shooting. So 2.5 years it took to make this movie. This movie was also shot in 35 millimeter, and the cinematographer was his name is I'm going to butcher his name, Tsuyoshi Komodo. He's a National Geographic filmmaker. So he has this very unique style. But here we go again, second movie in a row where I'm talking about the first half. The first half of this movie, in the daylight, I was completely just shocked by how much I was loving what I was watching on the screen. The 35 millimeter looks incredible. The colors look great. Um, there is just this great look to the whole entire movie, and for the first half, I was like, man, this is wow. Like, I'm really shocked. There's a lot of movies that try to recapture that 35 millimeter 70s exploitation feel, and they think they do, but they don't. Genuinely, I think the first 25 minutes of this movie, it does one of the best jobs I've ever seen at recapturing that. Outside of Ty West X, I think this has some of the best kind of inspiration of that imagery. But once our killer kind of comes into the picture, and the sun goes down and night falls, this movie takes this really weird shift. It's as if all the night scenes of this movie were shot totally just different. It just feels like a different movie. And when I'm watching a slasher movie, I can forgive a certain level of character ignorance or character stupidity, for lack of a better word, but there's some really stupid character decisions made in this movie that lead to their demise, right? Their butchering. But at the end, I'm okay with it, right? I like the plot here. I like the idea of this bank robbery. They're going to meet at this location, and a local killer, has kind of like gotten wind that they're here, and he's not there for the money or anything. He's just a psychopath, and then he comes and kills them. And there's all this like this person's trying to sabotage this person is backstabbing this person. There's a lot of that going on here, but I think it's a good plot to get people to this house in the middle of nowhere and then get our killer there. I think I love the look of the killer so much because of Baghead Jason being my favorite version of Jason in Friday 13th Part 2, because he just kind of wears this sack head here. Like, I'll show you on the cover here. But yeah, not too bad. Really, really, really love that first half. Struggled a little bit more on the second, but it's okay. I ended up still having a good time all in all with this movie. Unfortunately, I can't really say the same for the sequel, Bereavement. I haven't watched the third one yet. There's a third movie. It's called Killer. I think it was off when I was watching these, and I finished Malevolence, and I threw this one right after. And I was really excited because I love Alexandra Daddario. Very, very excited. She's great in this. But this does that sequel trilogy thing where this sequel goes back in time and kind of tells the story leading into the first movie, and then the third movie is the sequel to that first movie, which I'm okay with. And this tells the story of basically what happened to the killer and how he became the killer that we saw in the first movie. And there's some casting decisions in here that really shocked me. At one, Alexandra Daddario. Two, Michael Biehn is in this as well. He plays the uncle. But this came out in what, 2010, I want to say. Right, was this 2010 or 2011? Yeah, I think this is 2011 because this first movie was 2004. So yeah, 2011. You're on the tail end of the torture porn era, right? We already had Saw, we already had Hostel. You're getting into the I Spit on Your Grave remake and kind of that era, and it's very, very, very apparent that that's what Stephen Mena and his team were going for here, because this relies a lot more on these ideas of torture and capturing people and chaining them up, and then doing what they do from there. And at 111 minutes, this movie just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and it fails to really have any impact. It's like one of those things where lower budget films suffer from, where it's like they just didn't do enough. It didn't go far enough to be impactful. But also too, like, this had a higher budget than the first movie, and I feel like they accomplished more on that first movie. So maybe a lull for me. I did like it. I was fine with it. I was like, yeah, that was okay. So maybe a little bit of a lull, but yeah, this is the director's cut, so there's additional footage. But again, it's signed on the front. There's Alexandra Daddario. So I haven't watched 3 yet. This one kind of stalled me from wanting to watch that third one, but I will. I will. I promise to you Malevolence fans out there. Yeah, only 2 left. Like I said, short month. Next up, Hell House 2, the Abaddon Hotel. Fun fact, we're actually going here this weekend because it's a haunted house. So we will be at the Hell House location this weekend. But this was a mod that I had picked up. I showed this off in a previous video. Yeah, the first Hell House I really, really enjoyed. Genuinely scared me. Like, creeped me the fuck out. Genuinely. Hell House 2 is so good at being scary and so bad at being everything else. And there's this weird thing that happens where in the first movie, I kind of believe our characters are real and therefore the events surrounding them are scarier because they seem like real people, if not a little far-fetched. But they seem like real people, and nobody in Hell House 2 feels like real people. We have a reporter. There is like a psychic medium in this who is insane, and I'm sure his character was designed to like take a stab at all these ghost hunters and stuff, but it just kind of, I lose the reality of it, and especially in found footage, you want to maintain that reality as much as you can to sell the scares. I will say though, there is still some really scary shit in this. There's a moment where they're up in the bedroom from the first movie and the light on the camera goes out, and when it comes back there's a figure standing in the, I don't even know if he's standing in the doorway, he's like creeping around the doorway, which freaked Erica out, that she was like, you had to pause and rewind it because I had stepped in the kitchen. So that freaked us out. There's some great stuff in the, I guess it's like the living room, the common center with turning heads, and just really good, really scary stuff here. But when it's not trying to scare you, it's pretty, I don't know, just silly. I don't think it detracts too much from the overall experience. When I put this on, I'm looking to be freaked out and scared. So I did get that. So I did receive what I asked for, and that was to be scared. So Hell House 2, really excited to check out. I think there's 2 more, Hell House 3 and Origins. So that is the Abaddon Hotel. And last but not least, I actually watched this yesterday morning. This is the final watch of the month. And this is The Seventh Grave from Severin Films. This is out of the Danza Macabre box set, Volume 1. This is from 1965. This is directed by Finney Cliff. And there's some... I don't think Finney Cliff actually... Oh, okay. That's his pseudonym. Okay. All right. I was like, wait, hold on. Finney Cliff. This was an interesting one. So... the Danza Macabre sets, to me, are very hit or miss, and what you're getting mostly are movies that have really great moments, but the movie as a whole doesn't really work as well as those fantastic moments, right? The Seventh Grave is the story of a group of strangers, well, some are strangers, that get called to a castle because they're the heir of this doctor who lived in this castle, and the will is going to be read, but the will cannot be read until a certain date. So they're kind of forced to be in this house, and things kind of start going wrong and mysteries start to unravel. And this movie, the director, Finney Cliff, I fucking hate that name. His name was Garibaldi Sarah. I'm gonna butcher the name. Finney Cliff. We're just gonna go with Finney Cliff. He was a first-time director, and you can sort of tell, like, there's this amateur style to the production. I'm talking about 60s movies here. But when you watch enough movies from the 60s, there is a certain quality, a certain production value that you're not getting here. The location is great, though. This was shot in a real castle, and it looks beautiful. It really lends a hand to what's happening here, but this movie really picks up at a seance sequence that happens at about 35 minutes into the runtime. There's a seance sequence where there's kind of this rapid change up in style to the point where I actually stopped and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Because everything up until then, everything up until then is very tamed. It's all very predictable, and like the characters aren't that interesting, and everything's shot just very nothing was stand out. And then this seance sequence happens, and we have this awesome shot under the table. They have to put all of their hands together, so they're kind of like this, and their pinkies are touching around this round table. And there's this random shot where the camera is underneath, and it's spinning, following the hands. The table begins to flow, and it's just this really, really, really good moment in the middle of this movie that really took me by surprise. And then from that moment on, we have the murder mystery that develops, and it gets better at that point. But there is some really batshit crazy stuff that happens here. There is a desecrated body that's found at a piano. People are just disappearing left or right. The groundskeeper hangs himself. This police detective just randomly shows up. He's like, oh, I heard something's going on. And there's this really like poor moment where they have to recap all the events of the movie. It's like we're 45 minutes into this movie, and then we just have this 10-minute sequence where characters are just recapping everything that happened to this police detective. But what's more interesting to this, thanks to the bonus features, so we have some great features on this disc. There is an interview with a film historian, and then we have a video essay by a Gothic scholar and an author. This movie was pretty much kind of like lost for a long time, or just rumored to exist. And I think it was on bootlegs, and there might have been a really rough cut on YouTube at one point before this disc premiere. But Severin just out here saving movies, doing great things for restoration, as all labels are right now. So, but I think this so far in the Danza Macabre Volume 1 is the standout. I liked Monster at the Opera. This so far is my favorite, though. If you have that box set and you haven't dived into it yet, I would definitely start with Monster at the Opera, but expect a really good time out of the Seventh Grave. So, yeah, that's it. 7 brand new watches out of the collection. This past month, like I said, I rewatched the entire Halloween franchise. Just kind of fell back on some comfort movies, went to the movies a couple of times, but I'm going to be diving into a lot more new stuff. I just got a new order from Severin I'm going to be getting into tonight. Just getting into new things. So I hope your October kickoff is great. I hope you're ready for some spooky movies. I hope you have some really good stuff lined up. I'm going to cheers you this Celsius Cola one more time until we're cheersing a Downy cider again. And yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to go follow me on Instagram. It's Bearded Film Guy. Shoot me a subscribe if you don't mind. We are like 240 away from 1,000, which is crazy. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'll catch y'all later.